to another episode of the Language Lounge. My name is Michelle Olah, and I have Shelli Brown here with me today. Hi, Shelli.
Hey, everybody.
I am so excited. So there's so many things that Shelli and I could talk about, and we've flipped and flopped on various topics. I would say because we just get so excited every time we talk about something different. And so today we're going to talk about instructional coaching and just coaching in general. And Shelli is a World Language Instructional Coach. And so we're going to kind of talk about the big job of coaching, being coached, coaching others informal, but also just informally, how we can use various skills, dispositions, strategies, tips about coaching to really just help elevate and improve our own practice and to just support each other and to be the best we can be, right? So, Shelli, why don't you introduce yourself really quick? Tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are.
Sure. So my name is Shelli, and I am a World Language Instructional Coach here in a district in Texas. And I actually began as a classroom teacher. I was in the classroom for 22 years. This is my first year out of the classroom into this coaching role full time. I was able to do kind of some smattering of coaching while I was also trying to full time teach, which, it was smattering, I'm telling you. So, that just, and as a classroom teacher, I taught Spanish, middle school, high school, level 1, level to level 5, and just supported teachers in whatever leadership role I may have been able to step into on any given campus. I've been in Oklahoma, I've been in North Carolina, and then here in Texas. So yay.
Awesome.
That's just a little bit.
No, that's perfect. That's just enough to get us started. So
Absolutely.
First of all, for people that don't know, because not everybody, I think instructional coaches sometimes, there's a couple different views of them, I'd say. So when I taught, I was never lucky enough, or we were never important enough in world languages to have a content area instructional coach, right? We had a school-based one, maybe focused on math and ELA, or just in general, or a technology one, right? So why don't you tell us a little bit about what a coach is, what they do, how is it different than professional development? How is it different from other types of supporting teachers?
Okay. So you'll actually see or hear, you could talk to another coach in a week and they might say something slightly different, but the larger portion of coaching is that we're supporting teachers in instruction. And so you might have some coaches. Professional learning is also part of what I do. I attend professional learning, collaborative team meetings, just really helping teachers with strategies, supporting their. I'm a collaborator, I'm a thought partner, I'm a listener, right? And so I'm just getting to come alongside, right? So think about what you do as a classroom teacher, and you're out in the hallway and you're just able to have that back and forth with somebody, all those informal meetings, all those informal brainstorms that we would have with people at the lunch table or in the hallway. Yeah, I just get to do that full time.
That's awesome.
And so I do. I just get to, I love it. I absolutely love it to be able to be present and just come arm in arm with teachers. Like I said, you could talk to a different coach in a week and you could hear something different. I do know that there are coaches who are in an evaluative role. I am not. Thank the Lord.
Yeah.
I just really do get to be a colleague. I get to be a colleague. I get to be a thought partner. And the value that's been to me, I also get to do some recon, right? I get to go to this classroom and I'm like, okay, Michelle, you will not believe what I saw in so-and-so's class. We were just talking about this the other day and I just saw it. Y'all got to connect. You got to talk, right? So I'm able to do some of those things as well. And it's not evaluative in the role that I'm in. Again, for someone else, it could be evaluative. There's also in some districts, if there exists like a core content instructional coach, that person may just be for teachers who are struggling or on a growth plan. That's not really the mindset that we have here in in the district where I am, we truly believe everybody deserves a coach. You can be at the top of your game. Olympic athletes have a coach, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's what we just believe that everybody deserves a coach because all of us, no matter where we land on the spectrum, we all want to grow in our craft. Coaches are coached, our superintendent is coached, our kids are coached, right? Everybody
Yeah.
gets a coach. So, yay.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think you're right that, when you look at a lot of coaching experiences, they do, hopefully, you want them to mostly be non evaluative because that does
Right.
kind of
Right.
mix another dynamic into that
Right.
process.
Right.
When I
Right.
was in a district office, I was an administrator who coached as well. So I was evaluative and I was a coach, and it is challenging for the teachers and for me. And I would literally be like, I am wearing my coaching hat. I will tell you when it's
Mhm.
evaluative. Until that point, you'll know way ahead when it is that,
Right.
we're not,
Right.
it's nothing, there's no hidden agenda, but it is a challenge when
Yeah.
it is that sort of
Yeah.
relationship. Because I think
Mhm.
that touches on something else that I wanted to talk about, and that is coaching is very personal. At least I think it's very personal. It's
Yes.
one-on-one.
Yes.
It's letting people into their classrooms. It's being vulnerable. And so tell me a little bit about how you have, because they always talk about a coaching relationship. It's not a coaching like
Absolutely.
experience. It's not even a session.
Right.
They always talk about it
Right.
being like
Right.
the coaching relationship because I really do feel like
Right.
the best
I'm not
coaches.
sitting at a desk and they're on a couch laying down going,
Right.
"Okay, coach, this is
This
that's
is
not
our
what happening."
session,
No.
right?
This is our
Exactly.
session. No.
So tell me a little bit about that coaching relationship and how that works. Like
Right.
in
So
general.
it
Yeah.
sure, sure. Just kind of it's the same as what I'm speaking here to classroom teachers, right? It's the same as what you would do with your students, right? That you want to build relationships with them. You want to see and learn who they are as people. What brought you here to this profession, right? Now you're not going to ask kids that, but
Mhm.
what brought you here to this class, right? Is it because it's required? It's because this is a class you actually enjoy, or my sibling is deaf and I want to learn ASL, right?
Mhm.
It just could be any number of reasons that brings you to this space. And what we learn in coaching is to ask a lot of questions. I can't walk in already with a set mindset of, oh, this is this person. I want them to get to know me, and I want to get to know them. And so we do that. And I think there was more of that because I'm new in this role and this is a brand new role, and the teachers that I get to support are also like, "Oh my gosh, we have a coach. What do we do? What does this mean?" Right? All of us, and
Yeah.
I'm the same way. "Oh my gosh, y'all have a coach. What does this mean? What do we do?" Right? So, it just was a lot of, okay, what does it look like for you to be coached? What does that
Yeah.
look like? What does that sound like for you to be coached? How do you see me supporting you this year? I was able to sit down with some teachers at the beginning of the year when we were talking about goals because many of them had to have two goals. And one of the teachers was so funny. It was our Latin teacher, and he had me in stitches. So we're talking, and I'm just asking him questions, just trying to draw. And he's like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, I think I like that's. I think that's the wording I want on my goal." And so he's writing that down. And then other people came into the workroom, and he was like, "You ought to ask Shelly about your goal. She'll just give one to you." I'm like, "I'm not giving people goals. That is not what just happened here."
Oh, but
So
you
we just laughed.
expertly led that conversation so that it seemed like you gave him the gold. That's
And I
hilarious.
really didn't. I really didn't. And so, but it's that type of thing, right? That you have that relationship that we're just asking questions. And I really do not want to come into the relationship like I am the guru.
Mhm.
Just sit down and listen to what I say because I've
Yeah.
been there and I've taught that. That's not how I want to come into this relationship. I want to come in leaning into the expertise that you have, but sometimes your job is so hard.
Mhm.
Can I get an amen? Right? Sometimes
Right.
your job is so hard, you don't realize, wait, I do this. Oh my gosh, I actually do this. Yes, you do.
Mhm.
Or when I have those teachers that are like, man, I am struggling. This class just will not, will not, will not. And then I go in and I'm saying, well, can I just come in for like 15 minutes and just make note of what I see the kids doing? This is not about them evaluating you. I'm just making note of what the kids are doing. And they're like, yeah, that would be great. And then I sit down with them to debrief. This is what I saw the kids doing. And they're like, what? They were actually taking notes. They were actually discussing what was, I said, yeah, they were actually doing the thing. But sometimes we get so wrapped up in this one kiddo, these 3 kiddos who are not doing the thing, that we forget that 27 are doing the thing.
Yeah.
And so that just gets to be coaching as well, is that I just get to be another set of eyes in the room to go, you got this, or this is where it went off the rails,
Yeah, yeah. This is it. Yeah. And
So,
it's so funny because one of the things I kept telling teachers that were kind of reluctant or kind of not sure about letting, another person in their classroom to
yeah,
help them
yeah,
see things, because I would tell them you can't simultaneously be teaching and watching yourself teach.
you
You
cannot.
cannot do both things at the same time. And so I love that idea of a second set of eyes to really kind of look at the whole picture and just record the
Right,
what is happening, and what's going on, and then just asking questions like, okay, well, this happened
right,
at this point, this is what
right,
preceded it, do you see any connections, or do ask, and then just asking those questions
right,
about, like,
right,
what do you think could have would have happened if you
right,
would have done this differently, or you move things
right.
around, and just kind of asking those questions, I think, is so
Right. What did you think
powerful.
about the lesson? What did you want the kids to get from it? Okay, how do you know that they got it? Or right, just kind of asking those questions. Um, and it's so funny because ideally we would love for teachers to be able to record themselves, because that's going to be the truest thing, right?
Yeah.
Because they're, even as I'm writing about this, that this interaction, another interaction is already going on, right?
Yeah.
And so there are things that I miss because I'm a human being. But ideally we want teachers to be able to record themselves, but if there's hesitancy to do that, I'm the next safest choice, I hope,
Yeah.
right? I hope that I've built that relationship, that I'm the next safest choice.
Yeah,
So,
it is. I'm a national board certified teacher dropout, just because of, at that point in my life when I was doing it, I couldn't handle,
yeah.
on top of
Yeah.
all the other stuff, I couldn't handle the recording and evaluating myself. Right, it just was
Mhm.
too much for me at that point. So yeah, I literally
Yeah.
dropped out because I'm like, nope, can't do this. So
Nope,
I
nope.
always say I always tell teachers it's not an easy thing. It is a brave
It's
thing
not.
to record
No.
yourself
Nope.
and either let someone else in, or I think it's
Mhm.
even harder for you to watch it yourself. Personally, that's how I
Yourself.
feel.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We pick all the little, things that are, not what we want. And, but
Right.
anyways, I just love that idea of, just allowing somebody in, asking questions, having that relationship, bouncing ideas off of each other. Um,
Mhm.
and I think not everybody maybe takes advantage of coaches because they don't know what to expect. They don't
Right.
know, like, why is
Right.
this person here? Are they here to,
Right.
pick all the things I'm doing wrong?
Right.
It
Right.
always, I think, like you mentioned before when we were talking about a deficit mindset with coaching, and why don't
Mhm.
you address that
Mhm.
part of it? That it's not about what they can do.
Yeah. So, it's very easy to believe that, well, I only need to be coached because I'm a struggling teacher, or I've just been put on a growth plan, or I'm about to be put on a growth plan. And so coaching is the last step before I lose my job.
Yeah.
And so we can if we look at coaching that way, then we could look at it like, okay, whew, dodged a coaching bullet. I didn't need to be coached, right? So,
Right.
whew, right, that was a close one. If we look at it that way, then it's it's really to detriment for ourselves, because here's an opportunity that we are missing. um I think about if you're standing face to face with someone, they can't see behind them and you can't see behind yourself. Having that coach there, like I said earlier, gives you another set of eyes that can see from angles that you can't see from. And you're doing the same for them, right? You're bringing a different understanding when you come to that coaching place as well. So it's it's to your benefit that if there is a coach available on your campus in your district, and we'll talk some about that, I think, too. If there's not that
Mhm.
person available, then how can you still be coached? Because again, everyone deserves a coach, whether they have the title or not.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves a coach, because we all do want to grow in our craft, and it is to our benefit for us to be coached.
Yeah, I
100%.
love that. You know, I think it's funny because in the outside of education world, coaching is a
Hmm.
highly like leaders get coached like really elite, it's like this
Right.
high ticket, sort of a thing to have a coach, right?
Right.
And here we
Right.
have one in
Right.
our schools, that we don't have to pay for. And
Right. Right.
but we're kind of maybe nervous about, what is the
Hmm.
purpose of it, and what, what that can
Hmm.
do. I know you talked about just as far as people, having those coaches. There are times, realistically, when you might be called in, maybe not you specifically, but a coach might be called in. To there might be an issue. There might be a
Hmm.
challenge that a teacher has. Either they've
Sure.
identified
Sure.
it, or maybe somebody else identified it. How do you, you know, approach that in a way that is respectful and
Right.
to that teacher, and also kind of addressing kind of some issues or core issues or concerns that people might have.
Well, okay, so I'm going to go back to recording, which is kind of a tough thing, right? Because it's hard to teaching is very personal. It's
Yeah.
very, very personal, right? And it's not easy work. We
Yeah.
admit that. We know that. And so I think, I love Jim Knight's work around instructional coaching, and one of the things that he talks about is let's get a real picture. Let's get a picture of reality, right? How I think it is when I say, "Oh, none of the kids are
Hmm.
really none of the like absolutely none of them. None. Or they all do this." So every single one of them.
Hmm.
Okay. Nobody takes you seriously when you use those words, just by that's free right there. So and so when we get a clear picture of reality, and the best way to do that is video, quite honestly, in a if I'm coming to a place that's like, I'm really, really struggling. I'm really struggling. Okay, let's record this little bit. This is when do you see that it's falling apart? I
Hmm.
see that it's falling apart at the end. I see that it's falling apart the middle, or I can't even get it started correctly. Okay. So then let's just record. Let's record what's happening. Let's get that a picture of reality. And then when we sit, actually, what is typical to happen is that the teacher is going to sit and look for a viewing purpose, just like we would do with students. We would not just give them an audio, we would not just give them a video, we would not just give them a reading and say, good luck. We would not. Not if we want them to get something out of it, right? And
Yeah.
so for that teacher, for a viewing purpose, what's our viewing purpose here? Well, what what did you want it to look like? What did it look like? Let's talk about that then. Then you're coming back to me, Michelle. You've just watched your video. What did I want it to look like? What did it look like? And it was just 15, 20 minutes. Yes, they can be longer. They can do that, but let's baby step here. 15, 20 minutes, beginning, middle, or end. All right. What did I want it to look like? What did it actually look like? Okay. Then Michelle, you and I sit down. All right, this is what it looked like. This is what I wanted it to look like. Okay, let's brainstorm then. What's one thing that we can put in place to get it moving closer to what you want it to look like,
Hmm.
right? To move it from, I don't know if you've heard this, that we kind of talk about the scale. We talk about the scale from 1 to 10, and I say, oh, okay, I'm at a 4 on this. Okay, well, how are we going to get you to a 10? That's not reasonable. It
Hmm.
is reasonable. It is accessible to get from a 4 to a 5. What needs to be at a 10, this is what it's supposed to look like. Okay. So what's the next step to get us from a 4 to a 5 or from a 4 to a 6? All right, great. Let's see if we can make that happen. And then that's the work that we're doing, and then we feel that progress moving forward.
Yeah.
So it really is, it continues to be, whether you're in a situation where you're helping a struggling teacher, or whether you're in a situation where you're helping the teacher of the year.
Yeah.
It's still a partnership. It's still a partnership because they can still answer those same questions. What did it look like and what did you want it to look like? All right, what needs to be in place to move it from a 4 to a 5 or from a 5 to a 6?
I love that.
So yeah.
There's so much stuff there. I think one of the things that I found, and I think you kind of touched on it, is small manageable
Yeah,
steps, because we all
manageable.
think, we all
Absolutely.
see, whether it's on social media or we all hear about these amazing teachers that do everything right all the time,
Mhm.
again, everything and all the time, right? And so we have this idea that this is where we have to be, and we need to be there now. Like, we don't give
Right.
ourselves that space to really learn and implement and mess it up and fail and then
And
learn it
mess it up.
and then do
Right.
it better because
Right.
you failed, because again, it's
Right.
never
Right.
this straight line of improvement, right? You're going to have misses.
Right.
And I
Right.
think, to me, that's the real power in a coach, is that that's also somebody to set, to remind you that
Right.
no, you can't have 5 major goals this quarter. You can't be working on target language and authentic resources and improving this and doing
And
engagement and all of these things. Like, let's focus it down into a couple of the core things. Not that I think matters. What matters to
right.
you? What do you think is
Why is
going to
this
be the
important
biggest
to
change?
you?
Yeah, because
Why
that,
is this important to you? Mhm.
yeah, I think, and that is something that, we just keep forgetting. Like, we can't do it all, we
Right.
can't have it all done, and we can't be perfect right away,
Right.
um
Right.
or ever, let's be honest. Right? Let's, like, but just accepting
Right.
that journey and embracing that journey.
Yeah.
um so I think that's wonderful. What are, so listening is listening is a disposition that any coach, again, whether it's formal or informal, really, really has
Right.
to have thoughtful questioning. What are some other
Mhm.
skills or dispositions that you think anybody that's in a role of supporting, giving feedback, and coaching teachers kind of should work on, or should really kind of have and learn to do better, I guess?
So, one of the things that we cannot avoid is that we come into this partnership with our own experiences, right? And it's easy for us to say, okay, so when I was in the classroom and when I did this with third period, and when I had this one kid, and then when I,
Yeah.
um, coach can't make it about themselves, right? It doesn't mean that I can't bring some of that forward, but I'm going to be really, really guarded on when and how much of the I to bring forward, right? Um, there are there are books out there for coaches, for
Yeah.
anybody really, about avoiding being an advice monster.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because it's easy, right? We think about being coached in a sport, or we want to just tell people,
Do this.
let me just tell you what
Right.
to do. It's just going to be so much easier. But that's not really coaching. That's commanding. So
Yeah.
what we
Yeah.
want to do is we want to coach, and we want to keep that in mind. What's important to this person? What expertise does this person already have that we
Yeah.
can lean into, and invite them to invite you, right? Open that space for them to invite you. Yeah. Okay, so Michelle, what strategy have you used before in this type of a situation? Well, gosh, I haven't really had this type of a situation. Is there something that you would recommend? I mean, I've heard some people try this, or I've seen some people try this,
Mhm.
and I just try to open that up rather than this is something I actually did. And it could be something I actually did, but I
Right.
also know that other people have also done this,
Yeah.
right? So that's definitely a disposition, for sure, that it can't be about me. It
Mhm.
has to be about the person that I'm coaching, and it has to be what's important to them, where their skill set is. Uh, so yeah, that's probably the other disposition that I would
Yeah.
say.
I think the other
Hmm.
thing I heard you say in there, is it's about, well, because it's about them, it's also about accepting without judgment wherever they're at. And I think
Wherever they're at.
it doesn't matter. There is no judgment of where you
Mm-mm.
are. It doesn't matter if, like, on your scale of 1 to 10, doesn't matter if they're a 9 or a 1. We're getting them, we're, pushing them, helping them, supporting them to move
Absolutely.
incrementally kind of up there.
Everybody's moving.
Yeah.
Everybody's moving.
Yeah. And
Everybody's
I
growing.
think
Absolutely.
that can be hard as well, that to come in with just, doesn't matter how long you've been teaching, doesn't matter where you're at,
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes when I first started coaching in my position, I'll be honest, it was my favorite part of my job that I ever had is I did curriculum writing.
Yeah.
I did professional learning. I love coaching. Like, it's near and dear to my heart.
So fun.
Because it's just really, because you do just to get to come in there and just accept and be very open, and just wherever they're
Mm-hmm.
at is where they're at, and just be able
Mm-hmm.
to have that. You see growth no matter what in that, when you're in that position,
No
no
matter what.
matter what you see,
No matter
you
what.
see growth, right? And so sometimes helping
Absolutely.
them see that it's okay, you are where you are,
Yeah.
and don't try and skip from a, a 6 to a 9, right? I mean, that's going to be
Right.
frustrating for
Right.
you and for everybody. But let's
Yes.
make a plan,
Yes.
and let's co-construct something to kind of help get there.
Right.
But
Right.
I do
Yeah.
love, that part of the part of
Yeah.
the job. So for sure.
Yeah.
um,
I think another disposition I'm as you're speaking has come to mind, is that think about what you're reading. How are you growing in your coaching skills, right? Whether you have the title or not,
yeah.
how are you growing in your coaching skills? And so, what are you reading? What podcasts are you listening to? Are you listening to Language Lounge?
Yeah.
Because, there's good stuff there. So,
Well, thanks. But there's a lot of
right?
podcasts for coaches out there.
There
So
are
there's a
so
lot. I
many
mean, people might
podcasts
not
for
know that, but
coaches,
there's quite a
right?
few. There's wonderful
There are
books.
so many out there.
Elena Aguilar is
Mhm.
one that I love listening
Mhm.
to,
Mhm.
so there's a lot
Mhm.
of resources out there, because even coaches need coaches, right? So everybody
Yes.
needs a coach. So,
Yes, everybody needs a coach. Everybody
and
needs a coach.
just stepping back
So
and
yeah,
kind of getting some of
you've
those
got to
skills.
read, and
Yeah.
I realized, like, okay, and it doesn't, that can kind of be overwhelming, right? That I've got my um Christina Aguilar. I've got my Elena Aguilar,
Like,
not Christina. That's a different.
different one.
I don't know if she's got a book or not. Different one. So I've got that's fantastic. So I've got Elena Aguilar, I've got Jim Knight, I've
Hmm.
got Michael Bungay, I've got right all these people, and it's about taking what you can add to your coaching toolbox. It's not about I've got to take everything from
From everybody.
chapters
Yeah.
from chapter 1 to 17 in everybody's book, right? It's okay. This is the next one thing I'm going to add. We have to do the same thing for us that we encourage the folks that we get to client, that are the teachers that we get to support, the that we get to coach. The same thing that we're encouraging to do. What's the one next right step, right?
Absolutely.
Let's do one or two steps at a time. We have to do that for ourselves, and it's like, okay, all right, Elena, I can take this. All right, Jim, I can take this. All right, Michael, I can take
Yeah.
this. Right, and that's then how we grow.
Yeah.
So
And knowing
reading.
that you're not going to be perfect either. I know
No.
I
Oh
offered
my gosh.
way too much advice and tried to solve too many other people's problems when I first started.
Mhm.
Because it is sometimes what they think they want, and that's what
Right.
they need.
Right.
But that's just not really what it is. So
Like the kids who ask for the they want the entire vocab list of 75 words, and they want the grammar chart. No, you don't want that, child. You do not want that.
right. We're just
You
trust
don't
us.
want
Yeah.
that.
That's funny.
You don't want that, right?
That's so funny. Oh, I love it.
Oh my
There
gosh.
was something else I was just gonna say there, and I'm trying to. I don't
Oh, I'm
remember what
sorry.
it was. No, I'm trying. Oh, I know another. I think
Okay, good.
another area of maybe growth that a coach, if you're looking at coaching, is the area of maybe giving feedback and
Mhm.
different types of feedback, how much feedback. Again, there's been times in my life where I gave way too much feedback, and then there's times where I didn't give clear enough feedback that it was actually helpful.
Mhm.
So do you have
Mhm.
any thoughts about both you giving feedback, but also how to give it so that it is received? Because that can also be kind of an issue as well. I ask for feedback, but then when
Right.
it actually get it, sometimes I kind of bristle, right? And I kind of, feel uncomfortable about that feedback.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
to what extent does feedback kind of play a role in what you do with teachers?
Sure, that's a great question. So I think one of the things that I learned through the reading and through the practicing of coaching, one of the things that I learned, because the folks here in my district they have opened their doors and they've just been like, come in whenever you want. And I said, okay, that's I can definitely do that. But please know if there's something specific that you want me to come for, I can definitely come for something specific. And so, okay, will you come? Okay, when you come in, can you look at this? I try to get folks to tell me, what is it that you want me to see?
Mhm.
What do you want me to see? And so that really gets the conversation going, that it's not feedback I'm crafting for you. This is the thing I want you to notice. No, no, no. What's the
Mhm.
thing you wanted me to notice? What's the thing that you wanted me to pay attention to? What did you want me to see? And so those are the things that I'm then taking notes on. And that's just facts. I really try to start with the facts. Let's just build up the facts, because receiving feedback can be bristly, right? And so, okay, here are these facts. All right, let's talk about these things. So I'm going back into that coaching role, right? Like, it's my questions are also the feedback.
Yeah.
I'm learning how to ask in such a way that is the feedback, without it coming across like, oh, you're trying to tell me I should have done something different. Because I'm not trying to tell you should have done something different. You know your kids. You're in the room with your kids. You just wanted me to notice this. You wanted me to notice how the kids were coming in the classroom. And so, what would it look like? So this is what I noticed when the kids were coming in the classroom. I noticed that they would come in and that you might be over here and you might see them and you might greet them, or you were just talking to this one kiddo. This is what I noticed. That's just
Mhm.
what I noticed. That's what you wanted me to pay attention to. What would it look like if you stood at the door to make sure that you didn't miss anybody coming in? Because I remember this, I wrote down that you said, oh, Michelle, I didn't even see you come in, right? What would it look like if you stood at the door? I'm not
Yeah.
saying that you have to stand at the door.
Right.
I'm just throwing something out there for you to consider. What would it look like if you stood at the door? Oh, I'd be able to catch each kid. Okay. Is that something you want to try? All right. No, I don't think I want to try that. All right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then what would it look like if you stood here? Or what would it look like if you had kids come to you? Right. And so it's just like, okay, in my back pocket, I've got a few options. Because this conversation doesn't necessarily happen immediately after I've done the class visit. It could be that we're going to touch base the next day, just because of how the schedule has fallen, and so it might be the next day. But I'm going to come here with some ideas in my pocket that, okay, well, if they don't want to stand at the door, I don't know how to help them.
Right. Never mind. Right. That was a
Never
quick.
mind. Like, I don't. Right. And so, because they could say no, they
Yeah.
could say no to the best thing you've got. So then what's your offer be? Right.
Yeah.
What does it look like? What does it look like if da, 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 and really get them thinking about, oh, okay, okay. Um, just like I said, trying to move out of that sage on the stage advice
Mhm.
guru, and that I have all the ideas. I was recently approached about coaching teachers who are in CTE. There were two teachers who were like, we really like you. Will you be our coach? Because they don't have a coach yet. They don't have a coach yet. And I said, sure. And so one of them was like, I'm really looking forward to the ideas you have for us. And I was like, let's be clear. I am not the idea guru. That's not what I
Right.
am. And he's like, okay, okay, So it's a retraining for everybody, right? It's like, okay, they're going to come and they're going to tell me the magic fix. I can't be in that position. I'm not the magic fix.
Yeah.
I, you know. So just really trying to frame that feedback, and I would even do that with kids as a classroom
Mhm.
teacher, right? What would it look like? I was wondering about, have you
Mhm.
considered, right? And really not this is what you need to do. It would be so much better if you did it this way.
Yeah, yeah, right. I also think that helps focus the person going in, the coach going in, because
Right.
I know when I first, again, I didn't get any training until after the
Mm-hmm.
fact. I was thrown into
Mm-hmm.
this kind of a role, and I would have I'm taking notes on everything possible, and then I was like, I don't know where to even start. Like, how do we
Right.
even start a conversation? Because I didn't get that focus from the person that I was supporting ahead of time. And so they
Mm-hmm.
may not want, to know what I think about classroom management. They may not
They
be, or they may not be ready for it yet,
they may not
or
be ready for
whatever
that, right?
whatever it might be. And
Right.
so I know as a coach I was overwhelmed at times with the
Mm-hmm.
amount of data I was taking in,
Right.
because I was taking in
Right.
too much, because
Right. Right.
there's so many pieces that are going on
Yes.
in a
Yes.
classroom. There's so many intricate moves and things that just flow together, that when you start
Mm-hmm.
to deconstruct these as different happenings, this is classroom
Mm-hmm.
management, this is engagement, this is
Right.
whatever, but they're
Right.
also interconnected, that it's very challenging. And so
Yes.
going in with that idea, I think, helps both parties really kind of make the most of that. And again, not to overwhelm
Right.
either party with just too much data. There is such a thing as too
Because
much data.
I told a team recently, we should leave this meeting energized. And they were like, what?
Yeah.
Energized? I said, yeah, we should leave this meeting energized. And they were like, okay, bring on the energy. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's not about my personality, right? It's about I have something that's actionable that I can go and take with me. And it does not feel like one
Right.
more thing.
Right.
And I got to figure out how this fits into the 98,000 other things that I already have, right?
Yeah.
Instead, it's this is what I'm getting that complements what I'm doing, that helps me grow in what I'm doing. And so that's been the goal. Like, nope, we leave this meeting energized. We leave this meeting energized. And it's not because we've done a cheer or a chant. It's
Right. Or
because
an icebreaker, or
an icebreaker.
any other
No,
nonsense, right? It's because we actually,
right.
right.
We leave because you
Yeah.
have something that you can walk away with.
That's
And so,
fantastic.
and you feel good about, okay, yeah, I can do this.
Mhm.
Right. And so, yeah.
Wonderful. I love it. So let's talk then about this. We're sort of going to change gears, but not a lot.
Okay.
And that is
Okay.
just that, we've been kind of talking about more formal. This is your job. This
Yeah.
is more of a formal
Yeah.
role. But we
Right.
know that not everyone, you may be the only world language teacher, the only Spanish teacher, the only French, German, sign language, whoever teacher in the whole district,
Yeah.
let alone in your
Yeah.
school. And so what are some ways,
Mm-hmm.
informal ways, that either
Mm-hmm.
people can reach out to find a coach, or you can provide coaches to each other, peer kind of coaching? What are some ideas that you
Mm-hmm.
have for
Mm-hmm.
more of, get the same
Yeah,
benefits
sure.
of coaching, but maybe not in a formal sort of role yet?
Yeah. Yeah. I raised my hand because that's me, right? Like I was the only person on my campus. I was or I like there's just I don't know who I'm supposed to connect with,
Yeah.
And so I'm new here and all the things our school didn't do um professional learning communities. We didn't do PLC. We didn't have that process in place. So it was just every teacher for themselves, So what do we do here with all this, right? I get it. I'm there with you. I'm right in there with you. Um so going back to that vulnerability, I had to when I sat in that seat, I had to ask. Um because unfortunately we do have a closed door and that can come off as, oh, I can't go in that place, right? I don't know, but we might have to knock on a few doors. We might have to ask that person. We might have to come out into the hallway and just say, I mean, I had to do it, y'all, where I had to ask. I had to ask one of my friends and just say, okay, I'm trying something new. Could you come and look? And I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable asking my administrator, who is also my evaluator,
Hmm.
right? But I could ask my colleague who was next door and knew how loud my class was. And so so I was like, okay, we're trying this. and I don't know how it's going to go. I would just love another set of eyes in the room for you to see something maybe I'm missing. Is it how I'm having them move that I don't know. I don't know. This
Hmm.
is, first period is those are the guinea pigs.
Yeah.
And so, okay, can I find that colleague who's got first period off and just say, "Can you come and can you just look? I know you've got first period off. 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Will you just come in for 5 minutes and just see how I get class started?" Because I'm kind of shaky on that. That requires a lot of vulnerability.
Yeah.
I'm trying something new, or I'm uncertain about something, or right, or I'm just kind of excited, Michelle, about this thing that I get to do. Will you just come look at it? 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Will you just come look at it? Or Michelle, I know that we have these same kids, and can I just come see how this kid interacts in your class? I know how he interacts in my class. Can I just come see how he interacts in your class? Just 5 minutes,
Yeah.
right? I think that a little can go a long way in that regard. Um, we have to ask one another.
Yeah.
I think we will ask questions on social media of people who are across the world and across the state. Can we connect with the person across the hall though,
Yeah.
and invite them in and ask them because they have some expertise. They have a perspective that we don't have that we could, again, just 5 minutes,
Yeah.
just 5 minutes. And they may end up staying for 7, and
Right.
they may end up staying for
You never
10,
know,
and they
right?
may invite you in,
Yeah.
and they may tell a colleague, "Hey, I got to go see this language class. Did you know that they're talking about main idea too?"
Mm.
Like, why don't
Right.
this is how they worded it with main idea. What if we did main, because our kids are not getting the main idea of these articles, right? How many
Hmm.
just cross curricular, it's okay if there's no, it's not okay if there's not another person who's teaching your same course. That's not okay.
Right.
There should be
That
more
right.
people. We need
But
to
it's
grow our
our
program.
yes.
That's a different story. But what I'm saying, as far as
Yeah.
coaching is concerned, it's really okay if they're not in your same content. It's actually sometimes better,
I was just gonna say there
because
are
then you don't
times.
feel like,
Yeah.
then you don't feel like I have to go in and compare myself to this other teacher who is teaching my same course.
Yeah.
I would actually encourage you to go and observe or be observed by someone who is not in your content area.
Yeah.
And I say observed, just visit 5
Right.
minutes.
Yeah.
5
It's
minutes.
funny because I can see saying to, let's say my goal is to like make my target language more comprehensible.
Mhm. Mhm.
If I teach Spanish and I'm watching a Spanish teacher, I can't tell if I mean, it's comprehensible to me, but if you have an ELA or a math teacher come in, who do they have to look at to see if it's comprehensible?
Right.
They need to look at the students. They need to see if the students are understanding, if they're following
Right.
along, if they're doing all of that. How impactful could that be
Right.
to have
Right.
somebody that doesn't know the language really looking at those cues, those single, if I'm doing comprehension checks, all of these
Mhm.
sort of things. There's so
Mhm.
many things that you don't have to know the language, and maybe sometimes it's
Mhm.
better if you don't know all the world
Mhm.
language specific pedagogy and idea. I could just say,
Right.
okay,
Right.
this is the expectation that I speak in the target language, but that the students understand a good portion of what
Understanding
I
it. Right.
say. Like I could just
Right.
tell them that and say, could you
Yeah.
watch to see if you see any signs of them either understanding or not understanding?
Right.
And 5 minutes
Right.
of that in the height of a lesson could give you a lot of perspective. And I don't
Mhm.
know what you said, but here at this point, everybody knew what was going on and they all did something, right? So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
so there's we don't want to, coaching isn't captured only with content. You can
No.
have
No.
those skilled conversations and have some feedback, have that relationship, invite somebody in, and
Yeah.
not have them be in your contact area, content
I
area.
remember when we were quarantine teaching, right?
Mm.
And we're on a conference calling platform
Yes.
or on some conference call platform with the children. So we not only got eyes into their world, their
Yeah.
parents got eyes into our world as well. And the emails, or the messages that I would get, that's okay, that lesson today, I understood this.
That's
You were speaking
great.
in Spanish and I understood it. And I'm like, oh, that's so great. How about your kid who was I just saw the ceiling. Just saw the ceiling fan. Did they also understand?
Oh, that's funny.
Because they wouldn't engage with me in the chat, but
Yes.
just like, yeah, just being able to have a different person come in, because they can view things. They can view things. That's just good teaching.
Yeah.
Good teaching is good teaching. So there are
Yeah.
some things that
So I think all of the
cross
things you
content.
mentioned before about questioning, about building relationships, about giving
Hmm.
feedback,
Hmm.
taking that data and being, that can work whether you're in a formal or an informal sort
100%.
of context.
100%. Especially, I will say, because I haven't really mentioned some questions that are specific to singletons. So
Mm.
that's the
Mm-hmm.
the wording, right? When you're the only person there teaching your course. So those are singletons. There's actually a lot of um, there are some resources out there for singletons. If I could encourage, um, Solution Tree has critical friends that I would recommend. I want to say, trying to remember his name, Ferreter, I think is his last name, but his first name is not coming to me right now. But um, there's another author, Brig Lean, Leane, that's got, here are some critical friend questions that, okay, I don't have a, a collaborative team. I don't have a PLC. You do have a PLC. That's a different thing. But I don't have a collaborative team that I can actually do this planning with, work through
Mm-hmm.
this process with. And so, yeah, Brigleen has got some or Leanne, I'm not sure, has got some resources that it's called Critical Friends, and you can definitely find some resources out there for questioning with singletons, because these are still conversations that singletons can have as well.
That's
Things
great.
like, let's see here, what's your plan for what's your plan for students who have learned this essential standard? What's your plan for students who haven't learned this essential standard?
Mm-hmm.
That's a question for everybody, right? And so just kind of in that PLC network, if you are a singleton in that framework, I highly recommend Critical Friends. We're working with some singletons on that,
That's
and
awesome.
we're coaching them with that. So that might be a good resource for you as well, to kind
That's
of take
great.
those questions to that person across the hall or next door, to be able to have somebody to collaborate with. So
That's fantastic. Awesome.
yeah.
Any
Mhm.
other tips, tricks? Is there any other
Oh
trends out
gosh.
there? Is there any other advice that you have really learned as you've been in this new role, that can kind of help teachers, get out of their classrooms, maybe, be vulnerable? Any success stories that you've had that have made an impact on instruction through coaching?
Yeah, I think when I kind of framed it, with one of our teams in particular, about so we had one teacher that approached me that just she was just not going to be able to get out and go visit the other campuses, and that's what she really wanted to be able to do. And I said, well, what if I go do recon? What if we just take this team and I go do recon and I go to the different campuses of the teachers who teach this, and I go into the classrooms and I'm just there for 20, 30 minutes and I just take notes and I do this recon. And so she was like, yes, can we do that? And I said, well, let me ask them. Of course, they were 100% on board. And so we set it up and I went into everybody's classroom, like I said, for about 30 minutes and I took notes. I took notes on the tasks. I took notes on what kids were doing and what kids were saying. And then I brought it back and just kind of put it into a little report. And I shared that with everybody, because it turned out that the other teachers also wanted to know
What
what their
everybody was
colleagues were
doing.
doing.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so, really kind of think about it as recon, that what tasks are the kids doing? Think about the task. Do not, if you're going to, try to finagle in on a class visit, this is about the task and the kids. It is not about the teacher. It's
Hmm.
not about the personality of the teacher. It's not about the vibe of the teacher. That's not who it's about. We got to look at the right thing when we go do these class visits. This is also work we're doing with some teachers. What we're doing learning walkthroughs. When we're doing those walks, when we're going in for 15, 7 minutes, whatever it is,
Mhm.
whatever that time frame is, what are we paying attention to? Our eyes are on those kids. Our eyes are on the tasks that those kids are doing, because that's something I can take back to my own class. I can't take Michelle's personality back
Yeah.
to my own class. I can't. My personality is going to be my personality,
Yep.
love it or leave. Like, this is it, right? But what I can take back
Yeah.
is, oh, okay. Yeah, I can take back this question that, or, some version of this question that these kids have to answer to close the learning loop on their learning. Oh, okay. So, or this is, ooh, okay, this is a task I can have them do when they do turn and talk, right? Thinking about the task that you are seeing in the room, what you're seeing kids doing in the time that you're there, that's going to help you grow and help you learn as a teacher and as a coach, right? Because then you're going over and you're going, okay, y'all, what I just saw in this, let me tell you the task I just saw. How could we work that
Mm.
into our own, right? And so then that's you all being able to, as a team or as co-collaborators, to be able to grow.
I really like that. I think that's a really strong advice to end, because I think you're right. So often we focus on the teacher, the person, what they're doing and how their
Mm-hmm.
personality is and what they
Mm-hmm.
say. And that can be detrimental to us
Yep.
as we grow, because all
Yep.
we're doing is comparing. And when we compare ourselves to others,
Right.
almost always we're going to come out short, right? We're unless,
Right.
like
Right.
that's always
Right.
going to be something where we're going to see. So I love that. I love
Right.
that focusing
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the task. I think that's a great way
And that
to
is from
coach.
John Antonetti's work about
Mm,
powerful task design.
I
So,
love it. Fantastic. Well,
yeah.
I know you've mentioned several different coaching
Gosh,
people.
so many authors.
We're going to make sure we get the actual book, so you can send me some
Okay,
of
good
your
deal.
top
Good deal.
articles, your top
Will do.
resources. And you mentioned a few. We'll
Perfect.
find those. We'll put those in the show
Perfect.
notes. Thank you
Perfect.
so much for
Yes,
sharing
this
this
was
with
so
us.
fun. Thank you.
I do. I love this topic. I could talk all day about this. I just think it's such an undervalued way for teachers to
Yeah,
get their learning and their
yeah,
growth. And
right.
I think I agree with you. Everybody needs a coach, and so
Everybody needs a
hopefully,
coach.
people listening will find a way to um, find a coach and to be a coach to
Yes.
somebody. Right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because
I love that.
I mean, you're a thought partner. That's what it is. Coaches
Yeah.
get to be thought partners, and you can be that with anybody. So
I love
you
it.
can coach.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shelly. It was
Thank
wonderful
you,
talking
Michelle,
with
for having me.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. So great. Thanks, everybody.